Make up mine. Fight.
I've been watching a lot of videos recently by the YouTubers Big Yellow and Reverend, who are both creators who specialize at least partially in discussing the finer nuances of competitive Pokemon. I really like both of their content, and a big focus of their channels is the concept of niches. Anytime a developer designs something for a multiplayer video game, it's most likely intended from the outset to have a specific niche or role that it fills. For some TF2 examples, the Panic Attack is obviously intended to be a last resort combo sort of weapon, and the Direct Hit is obviously intended to be a high risk, high reward damage dealer. However, it's really easy to just state the obvious intended use cases of weapons in this game, and I've done that a lot myself, so after being inspired by Big Yellow and Reverend, I want to talk about some TF2 weapons with finer use cases that the community at large might not discuss too much, or might not be immediately obvious to people without the specific wiring that the truly brain-rotted among us might come up with. I want to note that the examples in this video will range from pretty common knowledge to total ideological nonsense, but I also know that everything I say in this video will probably be at least one person's first time hearing it, so if it's not yours, just be glad that it is for someone. So without further ado, let's discuss some TF2 weapons with the weird, silly little niches. So starting off with like baby's first TF2 fun fact, the unarmed combat, Holy Mackerel, and to a lesser extent Hot Hand are in essence direct upgrades from the stock melee weapons that they're intended to replace. Okay, maybe not the Hot Hand, but the first two specifically are intended to be reskins that deal the same amount of damage across the same amount of time as stock. But what some players might not realize, yet a lot inarguably do, is that they actually expose Dead Ringer spies due to their unique mechanics. Getting a hit with any of these weapons displays each individual attack in the kill feed, whereas getting a kill additionally displays a special unique kill notification. Upon killing a Dead Ringer spy though, the special kill notification will not be displayed, meaning that the player can always tell whether or not the spy they just killed is actually dead based on what the kill feed says. This is obviously very common knowledge though, like every TF2 YouTuber has talked about this at some point, and I even made fun of this fun fact in my Throw Meme Weapons video. It's pretty much TF2 Did You Know Gaming 101, so for the rest of this video, I want to discuss some wackier stuff. For instance, while we're still talking about the Dead Ringer, this weapon actually used to allow players to instantly complete spy contracts. Yeah, the weapon that feels like it's mechanically held together by clothespins and chewing gum surprisingly had some very funny interactions with some of the game's more archaic mechanics. Specifically, during the Tough Break update, rather than using the contractor, Valve issued contracts randomly to players based on specific weapons and playstyles. One of the spy contracts featured an advanced objective to absorb 125 points of damage with the then still very overpowered Dead Ringer. However, due to a funny oversight, the game did not correct itself to account for environmental damage, and thus it was incredibly easy to instantly complete the spy contract by pulling out your Dead Ringer and instantly game-ending yourself.
Nice work, Spy.
Any map hazard that killed you would do, so saw blades, walking off cliffs, and anything else could instantly complete the Dead Ringer contract. There's a lot of edgy tone-deaf self-harm jokes I could make here, but instead of doing that, let's just talk about something much funnier that also has to do with the Dead Ringer. P. Did you ever realize that the Sydney Sleeper is like the best Dead Ringer counter in the game? No, seriously, upon shooting a Dead Ringer spy with this weapon, not only is his Feign instantly popped, but the actual spy is immediately soaked in the sniper's glorious yellow nectar, effectively consuming his Dead Ringer use while also leaving him completely exposed. This might unironically be the best thing about the Sydney Sleeper, and unironically allow Sniper to pose a significant threat to what's otherwise a weapon that allows Spy to comfortably slink past him. I think it might also apply to the Sharpened Volcano Fragment, as it also deals damage while instantly applying a visual debuff, but I don't want to use the Volcano Fragment to test it out. I'll let you make that video. But yeah, I'm already a Sydney Sleeper apologist, so having an inarguable, very applicable use case like this, even if it is a somewhat niche one, is very cool. While we're still on the topic of sniper primaries, and finally moving on from Dead Ringer shenanigans, did you know that the Hitman's Heatmaker actually has a hidden upside that's always in plain sight? Snipers' primaries tend to be some of the most conspicuous weapons in the game in terms of audio feedback, and the Hitman's Heatmaker actually does live up to its design by having a mostly silenced and suppressed firing sound. If you're someone who likes to play sniper from unexpected or cheeky positions, this can be a surprisingly helpful tool against disorganized teams, so pretty much any casual team. They won't be able to hear you firing from across the map if you happen to miss, and won't be immediately cued into the presence of a sneaky sniper on the enemy team. Also, you can activate the focus meter from any level of charge. This should be obvious as it's one of the weapon's main mechanics, but you'd be surprised how many people don't seem to realize it. Talking about another primary weapon with a hidden upside, the lock and load has a little bit of a weird mechanic that might not be immediately obvious to someone who's not intimately familiar with TF2's stat vocabulary. The 25% faster projectile speed actually serves a double purpose, as it causes this weapon to have significantly more range than Demoman's other grenade launchers. These pills fly fast and far, like my morning medication traveling through my system by about noon. This is due to a variety of source engine fuckery and hidden grenades do not tumble stats working in tandem, basically meaning that this weapon's pills experience lower air drag and travel in a cleaner, straighter arc. This allows you to hit enemies and especially sentries from places where you really should not be able to, and all around makes engineers very angry. If I had a nickel for every time Valve gooped up the travel and tumble of one of Demoman's primaries, I'd have 3 nickels, which obviously makes 15 cents. And hey, we can't talk about TF2 weapons with funny hidden niches without talking about the original. The original is funny because this thing's entire existence is basically defined by being a reskin only in name, with its incredibly wide variety of small changes from stock, making it the poster weapon for cock measuring contests between elitist competitive soldier players. Its rockets travel from the center of the player's view, making it better for pogoing and peeking enemies, and all around functions entirely different from stock despite the game's posturing that they share identical stats and mechanics. Personally, I prefer the original to stock on a game feel level, and I feel like it would be the immediate choice for most players if a strange one didn't cost the same price as a new Nintendo Switch. But hey, I don't have to worry about that. Thanks, Carpet. Also, you will have to deal with the
Hand of Midas
over here every now and again, but that's unfortunately just something with the original. On to the more difficult to demonstrate section of this video, we've got 2 very similar cases. Did you know that the quick fix can actually get kills through a wide assortment of Jungle Inferno bugs working in unison, which can pretty much go for everything that was introduced in Jungle Inferno? Healing a thermal thruster pyro with the quick fix and blast jumping with them allows the medic to copy the thermal thruster's man-tread stomping ability, making it the only medigun with a fucking body count. Unfortunately, the number of circumstances you need to line up to actually make this happen in a match is almost Rube Goldberg-esque, but if you can manage to do it in an actual game, please send me a clip and I promise I will send you a funny emoji in return. And along similar lines, demand treads can not only deal the highest damage in TF2, but also possibly the highest damage out of any weapon in any multiplayer game ever. This is all very well documented in a great video by Squim Jam of After Breakfast fame, but through stacking 98 man tread soldiers on top of a heavy and throwing on some funny manpower buffs if we're Goomba stomping to top 1, you can achieve damage so high that the game itself stops counting and just says infinite. This pair of worn boots can literally make a damage number so big that the computer gets tired of counting, and that's like the main thing that computers were made to do. We've officially worked through all of my non-heavy sections for this video, so consider this last stretch to be the heavy mansplaining portion. Surprisingly, the class I have the most experience with is the one that I know the most funny little quirks about. For starters, the Warrior Spirit is actually the highest per hit damage dealing melee weapon in the game. I feel like a lot of people either forget or willfully ignore this, primarily due to the Warrior Spirit's lack of goodness and the Skull Cutter existing, but yeah, the Warrior Spirit actually does 85 damage per hit, or over 250 with a crit. This actually doesn't make too big of a difference compared to the Skull Cutter in an actual application sense, as they both generally exist within the same damage thresholds due to the incredibly close numbers between their damage output, but at the very least, the Warrior Spirit can 2-shot a Demo Knight with at most 1 head, so that's pretty cool. That's something only it can say. And while we're talking about heavy damage numbers, I feel like a lot of people credit the Brass Beast as the highest sustained damage dealing weapon in the game, but as I discussed in my ranking every heavy minigun video, this actually isn't true in application. Due to a combination of its flat damage boost against burning players, its Ring of Fire's flat damage, and the afterburn of the Ring of Fire, the Holong Heater is actually capable of outputting slightly more damage at point blank range than the Brass Beast. Also, fun fact, Ring of Fire actually deals even more afterburn damage while the Holong Heater is the active weapon, which I think is an entirely unique mechanic amongst all of TF2's weapons. I think the only weapons that might outpace the Holong are the Backburner and Flog with crits, but I'm terrified of actually looking into that and talking about flame particles on this channel, because trying to read how they work is like trying to dissect a fucking mathematical equation. And lastly, the Natasha and Brass Beast both have funny little quirks of allowing the heavy to outlast some very important damage thresholds. The damage resistance below half health stat doesn't exactly work how you would expect it to, and actually soften the damage of any attack that would bring heavy below 50% health at a base, allowing him to survive both an additional sniper quickscope and even a third demo pipe. And there isn't really anything funnier than seeing a demo player visibly double take when the heavy survives their requisite 3-pill barrage. Anything that does exactly 300 damage takes at least 1 extra hit with the Natasha or Brass Beast, which sends people who play mainly competitive classes into a panicked frenzy when it happens to them. It's very funny. Also, as a little bonus, because I don't know where else I'll get to mention this, but the Holiday Punch has a very silly little mechanical oversight with its strange version specifically, where it'll still count stuns on enemies who are already laughing or even in another taunt so long as you're either hitting their back or critting. This actually allows a strange Holiday Punch to level up extremely quickly so long as you're willing to waste a valuable Holiday Punch stun poking someone's back. And as the self-proclaimed #1 Holiday Punch supporter heavy main on YouTube, I grant you my blessing to do this. Also, something ubercharged stunning. So there's some TF2 weapons with silly little niches. This doesn't at all cover the entire base of TF2 weapons with small niche applications, so if you've got any other ones in mind, please share them and I might make a follow-up to this video. Or if you found this video to be an incredible waste of your time, at least you've got a good head on your shoulders. Thanks, hope you all have a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch you all later. Cheers!